Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Greetings, welcome to the program. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga. By 2023 in Uganda today, where we're streaming live from, the political parties are going into what we may call oblivion, slowly by slowly. Political parties have been taken over. The first thing was UPC, that is the Uganda People's Congress. After that, we've seen a series of political parties joining the NRM movement or working together with the NRM. With that, comes the latest DP cooperation agreement that was signed between Norbert Mao, the President General of the Democratic Party, and of course Yoweri Habura Museveni, the President of Uganda. In this cooperation agreement, DP believes that we can find a way of harmonizing, dialoguing with NRM, the National Resistance Movement, so that we can find a way forward. In that particular regard, FDC has or may have followed suit, because we have questions and allegations coming in from some members there that are asserting that FDC has been compromised and it's now in the caravan of NRM. Now that leaves the National Unity Platform as the only opposition political party that we may say has a lot of momentum and a lot of membership, especially in the parliament, since they are the leaders of opposition. For this discussion today, I have Mr. Lawrence Nsereko Kiwanuka. He is an exiled journalist. He's also a lecturer. He is a DP member, one would say who is a candid DP member, and of course he's a politician, and he is streaming live from New York, or he's coming live from New York. The reason why you have this gentleman is really to touch base and get an insight from him. How does it look like? How does the politics or the future of the political spectrum looking like in 2023? And of course, we want to look at the roadmap that was set by the Electoral Commission, saying that by 2026, Uganda is going to be ready for an election. Is this actually practical? And what does it speak of the opposition political parties that are only having a very small time towards election, but yet there are still, here and there. There are still many disagreements. There are still many challenges that are affecting the opposition of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this program. And of course, Mr. Kiwanuka, welcome. And let me give you an opportunity. Greet the viewers and also tell them, for those who do not know you, who you are and of course your designation.
Greetings, my fellow countrymen. My name is Kiwanuka Lawrence Nsereko. I'm a resident of New York. That's where my body is, but my heart is in Uganda. I greet you all for being resilient, because living in Uganda calls for resilience, considering what is happening in that country. I hope you are going to listen in, and we are going to have a lively conversation, trying to figure out how do we deliver our country from the doldrums and the abyss where it's being pushed by the current regime. So let's have this conversation. Let's be candid. Let's be focused. And hopefully we will learn a thing or two from each other.
So much, Mr. Nsereko. You start off with a very good statement of saying delivering our country or delivering our party. First of all, is this delivering? Because according to the President General of the Democratic Party, they are now cooperating, working together and with President Museveni and trying to create change. So do you think dialogue is the way to go, or do you still see this as a grip of the Democratic Party by the NRM?
I want to start off by saying that, first of all, the alleged agreement, that's if it exists, because some of us who are members, we have not seen the agreement. So I'm going to be talking about that agreement in total darkness of what the contents of that agreement is. So I want that to be out of the way. But you have to understand Yoweri Museveni. And this might take a long time, but I will try to be very brief to give you a historical perspective of who this individual with whom my friend Norbert Mao thinks he can work with and be able to strike an agreement with him. In my life, I have been running around, and I had the opportunity to speak with the late Naftali Akena Adoko. And in my conversations with Akena Adoko, he told me that Museveni is exceedingly self-centered. He's about himself. That actually rhymes with what Musei Boniface Byanyima has told us and told the press with us on this side. So, Norbert Mao moves and decides that he's going to work with this person. I want to tell you that those of us who have known Museveni, at least from the 80s, when I was still very young, I was a nymph when I first encountered his activity between UFM and the NRA. These two organizations had agreements. These agreements were never respected. Actually, part of the reason why UFM collapsed was because Museveni, with whom the UFM had struck an agreement, a corporate kind of a working relationship, robbed the weapons of UFM, attacked their camps, reported their locations to the Obote forces, primarily using Chris Wakasisi, whom he was working with, giving information, and he transferred the information to the forces, and the UFM bases were attacked. So when you look at Naftali Akenadoko, you look at Muzeya Boniface Byanyima, and you move to that history of the 80s, and then you come to the later 80s, the first agreement that they had with the Democratic Party, which was a gentleman's agreement to work together, and how Museveni came to power in January 1986. On October 7th, the largest group of DP members who were with him in the government were arrested and on trumped-up charges and detained. Before that, many members of UFM who had signed the agreement with him were detained and some of them killed. We remember what happened at Namokora, what happened to the UFM and the FEDEM soldiers there. We know what happened to the people who were transported from Gulu, UFM soldiers in trailer containers and put in the sun in Imbuya, and they died in the containers. All these agreements have been violated. So, if Norbert Mao thinks that today things are going to change, Norbert Mao is an Achori, and he knows what the Achoris say. The Achoris say that a leopard can change the branch it perches on, but it will never change its spots, because that is its nature. So I have very little hope that there is anything that is going to be beneficial to the country or to the Democratic Party. The only benefits that will accrue will be to the individuals that are dipping their hands in the financial basket that Museveni has put in front of them. I don't see this as being successful. Yes, dialogue is fundamental.
Okay, maybe just to paint, then you paint a gloomy picture, sad as it is, and the reality, as you said, is still gloomy. So what next for the political party itself, Democratic Party? So because you realize the President General has taken it and he has all his leadership behind him, it's just a few members here and there that are saying, hey, our political party, we were not consulted, we did not know, we have not read the cooperation agreement a year after it was signed by President Museveni. So what next for the political party like DP, since it's even the oldest political party we have in the land?
You know, I used to be an editor of a newspaper, and I am very careful when people use phrases. All leaders of the Democratic Party, he has a faction that is loud, that he's working with. Okay, it's not all members. And the capture of the Democratic Party, which is the capture of UPC, the capture of now that is happening with the FDC, I can tell you that, at least speaking for the Democratic Party, which I know, and you know, you might think that you have really blown up the Democratic Party. It's not going to happen. This is a party which was founded on for the advancement of social democracy. In 1953, the record is say 1954, but 1954 is when it was registered and announced, but it was founded in 1953. This party will survive the individual interests of the political actors on the scene today. The Democratic Party is unique in its own way, that it's the only political party which is not being run today by its founders. It has been able to survive that disease, so to say, of being clung on by its founding members. I can prove the ideas for which the Democratic Party was founded are very much alive. And when genuine democratic dispensation is introduced in Uganda, it will sprout anew, and it will be able to be vibrant.
For democratic change, FDC, that is being mad with bribery, with people selling the political party, with people receiving what we call dirty money today. And then that brings me to a position of, if our opposition leaders, especially let's say DP, especially FDC, if these people are leaving us as the populace behind, so what do you think, in your own perspective, are we to do? Because you realize the top leadership of the political parties may have been maybe compromised by the ruling government, but the opposition that is on ground, the people themselves, they are still feeling the pinch. They still have the constraints, the problems they have been crying over are still there, whether the opposition leadership is there or it's not there. So what is the advice to the person who's down, someone who would want change, but through having this effective change, they have to pass through these drivers, the political parties, now they are compromised. What do you think the person who's on ground should do or can do to make sure that maybe they restore constitutionalism and restore sanity back to Uganda, or maybe change or assert their will in a way that is, more impactful than using political parties themselves?
I was lucky in that in my early years, I traveled to the Philippines, and I was able to interact with Cardinal Sin, the original founder of the People Power movement globally. And People Power did not mean that we need to look at political leaders. We have to lead ourselves. We need to be able, as a people, not to wait for these people whom we are calling our leaders. And let me not be misunderstood here. Yes, we need them. But I want you to look at the political leadership in the country today. General Mugisha Muntu. Mugisha Muntu has education, has money, and he can live anywhere outside Uganda. So does Kiza Besigye. So does Chagulanyi. You can go down the list of all these political leaders in the opposition in Uganda. Many of them have the capacity to leave Uganda and live outside the country. So for them to stay in Uganda, they are actually doing us a favor. Okay. So we cannot rely on those people. We as a people, as a nation, we need to rise up to the occasion and know that this is our problem. That the country is going to the abyss, the country is being ripped apart and raped, so we have to protect it. We cannot give this responsibility to other people. This is the duty of Ugandans. What Museveni has done in Uganda, and he has done it intentionally, it's systematic, is to create what I call intellectual genocide in the country. The people whom we believed in, that they were intelligent at one time, have become so polluted with Museveni's yellow juice that they are not thinking right. Okay? Well, from the big word man Nsibambi to the current Nsibambi. Okay? They've all been confused. Okay? There was a time when somebody told you that Tasis Kabwejere is going to speak at Makerere. The entire city, the entire journalist fraternity, the law fraternity, everyone headed to Makerere to listen to Kabwejere. Today, it's not possible to find an educated person or a lecturer or a professor who can cause that to happen in Uganda. This is intentional. Museveni brought in Nsibambi, made him into a stupid fellow. Kabwejere, who is well respected when you read his writings on democracy, has become a useless a bearded, mustached fool, and so many other people. So when Museveni be ashamed all the intelligent people, then he decided to bring in the mediocre into our politics. Now, actually, in the last election, you were in Kampala. It was almost something to avoid, to say that I'm an educated person and I'm running for office. Not being educated was actually something celebrated. These are the issues that the people of Uganda need to know. That the issue is about them, not about the elites, not about your neighbor. The people power movement needs to focus that we move from thinking we are going to have a public rally. Talk to your neighbor. The soldiers who are torturing people are children, many of them. There are some who are brought from other lands, but many of them are children of women and men who are residing in the same villages with us. Talk to your children. Talk to your neighbor. Don't wait for Chagulanyi. Don't wait for Besije, don't wait for Mugisha Muntu. These people are going to continuously disappoint you. One, Museveni identifies them and he knows how to catch them. So the movement must be broader. We cannot actually carry out the change we desire if we extremely or in a parochial way focus on the political parties.
Okay,
We
thank
need
you
to
so much.
focus.
You bring in a phenomenon that is interesting, the people power movement, because the people power movement is what gives birth to the National Unity Platform. And that brings me to this question to you, sir, and you had even started hinting on it. The question of, are political parties still relevant to the politics of today? Because we can remember when political parties were vibrant in the 1950s, we were fighting for our independence, but now you are fighting someone who has been in leadership for more than 3 decades. And the phenomenon that the opposition is still having is trying to use the rudimentary, the usual tactics, using political parties. We had People Power Movement come through. It had a lot of membership, a lot of vibrancy. Then it had to mutate into the National Unity Platform. And we had a few players, starting to leave National Unity Platform. And please, I want you to just elaborate to the politicians themselves, but also the Ugandans and elites that you've been talking about, if our political parties are relevant to the politics of today, and if National Unity Platform can really go back to the default settings where they were of the People Power Movement, and how better can the movement be when you compare it to political parties or political caravans?
Now, we have a common problem. Therefore, the answer is a common front. Okay. The other issues that we have that divide us need to be shelved for a little while before we bring them up. They will come up after we have solved the common problem, which is the dictatorship. The octopus approach of Museveni that reaches into every nook and cranny of our society. The problems that you see that are in DP, that are in UPC, that are in FDC, that will emerge in NUP. Okay? And I say that again, that will emerge in NUP, are not the problem of political parties. This is the problem of a dictatorship. So to try to treat the political parties, you are actually treating the symptom and not treating the problem. So we need to focus ourselves and aim at the regime that is causing these problems within the political parties. I can tell you that if we did that, if we organized ourselves in a very good way with a people power movement, it can be anything. It can be Alliance for National Change. It can be Alliance for Democracy and Development, or national coalition for change. It can be so many things. It doesn't have to have the word people power. Okay. But people power was a very good idea that the people had adopted. But again, I hope I don't cause so many problems here. There will be need for us to study how did we fail to come together under people power, and then people ended up forming a political party to be able to move forward. Okay. One of the problems is that we continuously play with Museveni's agenda. People are having conversations now, and they are talking about 2026. What kind of childish nonsense is that? We need to draw our own agenda as a country and organize ourselves and say this is where we want the country to go, not to always be a tale of Museveni. When he turns the corner, the tail follows. No, people need to stand up. We know how dangerous it's going to be because you've incrementally seen how violent elections have become over time. Every election that comes has more violence than the previous one. So 2026 will be far more dangerous than what 2021 was. So what am I arguing here? I'm arguing that we in the opposition reorganize ourselves, know that we belong to political parties, we go with our ideas and form a new front and focus on one singular thing.
Kiwanuka Nsereko, you're still streaming him live from New York. I don't know if you can now hear me, Mr. Kiwanuka, because the network was a bit buffering. I had lost you there.
Okay, I hear you.
Lawrence Nsereko Kiwanuka is a lecturer, he's an exiled journalist, for those who are watching, and of course a DP member and a politician. So we are still touching base on the political spectrum of Uganda in 2023. Now, Mr. Nsereko, if you may, I want to bring in another phenomenon of the question of Mr. Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is the commander and a general, in fact, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, former commander of the Land Forces, former commander of the Air Forces. He is the first son. And it feels like now he is entering the political spectrum. So as you have been, fighting, in quotes, President Museveni, it feels like there is a new young breed that is coming to take over. And this is clear as day and night that Mr. Muhoozi is coming for presidency. Do you have a comment on that?
Now, I want to say from the very onset that Muhoozi has every right, if he is a citizen of Uganda, to contest for the presidency. What he doesn't have as a right is for him to abuse the laws to achieve his personal goal. Him being a son of the president is not a problem. However, what we need to know is how has this happened? Museveni has decided in his mind and in his actions that institutions don't matter in Uganda. Actually, we've had two institutions functioning, but they are also now falling apart. One institution was the family of Yoweri Museveni. It was a very functional, well-organized institution that has been running affairs. The other one was the army. It was a very lively, very well-structured institution. With the entry of Muhoozi Kainerugaba into politics, those two institutions are now on shaky ground. There are fights within the family as to who should be who, but also people in the army are beginning to ask questions. And this is a precursor to anarchy. Now, about Muhoozi becoming the president. Museveni has organized, has arranged this intentionally, and it's going to happen if we continue to perform the way we are performing as a nation or behaving as a nation, unless we put our foot on the ground. If we continue to look at, for instance, majority of the people in parliament who do not care about anything else but their pass and how much money they are making, Muhoozi is going to come in, and unlike his father, because Museveni at one level has emotional intelligence, which Muhoozi has very little of, and is not as well groomed to manage emotional intelligence the way his father has been. One, because his father arose from the poor people. Muhoozi has been served everything with a silver spoon. He is not responsible to anyone but the father who has fed him and the family. So he's going to behave far much worse than the father if Ugandans sit back and allow him to ascend to the presidency.
When you're talking about has the support of the parliament, you actually mentioned parliament in your submission. Recently, I think 2 days ago or 3, we had President Muhoozi being welcomed in Bukedia by the Speaker of Parliament, and more than 300 members of parliament were present, and many of them even made a line or a queue to shake the hand of this general and have a photo moment with him. First, what does this speak of the politics we have today? But also, this parliament that we have in Uganda, is there any comment you have for the kind of parliament and the politics it's running for the first 3 years they have been in parliament they are in?
You see, I was looking at the parliament of Uganda. I will not name names because that might cause problems. But I think today we have 17 MPs. Okay. They rest are there to earn their paycheck and they go home. And this is what Museveni wanted. The current of, I can say, idiots we have in parliament. I'm not going to apologize for that because that's what I think. That's what I feel. If they're not idiots, let them defend themselves. The kind of people we have in parliament are not intellectually capable or would be intellectually capable to be in parliament if the country was being run decently. You remember Museveni was in Bunyoro at one time about 3 years ago, and he said, send me anyone as long as they are NRM, even if they're just going to sleep. Okay. So don't even think anything positive to come out of that parliament, because if we go with the numbers and there is the problem of the dictatorship of the majority, NRM has its people and they are going to do whatever Museveni tells them, because for them, they are there to serve him, not to serve their constituencies or a country. Can you imagine if these people were about the country? How can Anita Among, even if she had stolen this money that she used to build the house, you saw the hospital in Bukedea, how it looks like, and the personal house, okay? The personal house, the living room, is almost bigger than the parliamentary main chamber. Parliament has no space. They are meeting in tents, they are meeting in hotels, and the Speaker of Parliament is able, in a very few years, to accumulate such wealth and build such a house. So these people are seeing Muhoozi as the next person to issue the check That's why they are lining up in front
Allow me
of
to
him.
interrupt you, Mr. Kiwanuka, from there. You call this parliament a parliament of quote-unquote idiots, and you also talk about the issue of Anita Among, but the parliament is comprised of Ugandans. So among the 49 million Ugandans, we pick 529 members of parliament and send them there. This is who we are. The people you're calling idiots, it's who we are. That is the best we can get from ourselves. And of course, when you talk about the issue of Anita Among, isn't it a bit sentimental for you to try to bring in that card of her house is as expensive, but look at the hospital? Because some people can build wealth for themselves. Is it wrong for her to have a fabulous house like that?
Well, I will apologize once we can do a lifestyle audit and figure out how she acquired the money. Anita Mongo is being accused of stealing iron sheets from the Gingi Karamojong. And she's building these spacious, wonderful houses. What I can tell you, when you look at the oligarchies in the 1800s in Europe, they had wonderful buildings like that. And when you see these buildings, they are one by the late Olanya, the one by Anita Mongo now, the one by Jim Muhwezi, and so many other places. Okay. Okay, this problem begins a little bit back. Some of us used to complain. There was a guy called Frank Mwine who first built, I think, a 17-bedroom house in Ibunga. And we complained he was using public funds from the Uganda Commercial Bank. Yeah, people said, no, we just envy him because he's building a big house. Okay. So these are behaviors of people who are trying to fill themselves in the spaces that belong to the public. And I'm not being emotional. If Among was a business entrepreneur like Wapamuno or any other person in Uganda and built such a house, I will not begrudge her. And if this money, she accumulated it fairly and there is no corruption behind it, it's all fine and okay. But when you are using public resources, that is what is wrong. It's the same thing that when I was discussing Mohoz, that for him to use public resources to advance his candidature 3 years or 4 years before even the nominations for other candidates are in place, that is very unfair. The only thing is that for me, I don't trust and I don't care about what happens in 2026 because it's the same thing that happened 2021, 2016, 2011, and backwards on.
Phenomenon of money. It looks like being a leader in Uganda is one of the most expensive things. In fact, it needs a very huge capital. Many go spend as much as more than $1 billion. And I think if you are to participate in the politics of Uganda, you have to have at least a minimum of like 700 million for starters. Comment on this issue of money and also talk about the fact that President Museveni continues to buy off opposition, in quotes, with what they are calling dirty money, still in quotes. What does this speak? Because we are all looking at the opposition that is receiving the money. Nobody is commenting on the gentleman that is dishing out the money, and the money that you may say belongs to the state.
I think if you looked back where I came from at the very beginning, I told you that all these things are systematic. It's not an accident that Uganda is impoverished today. It is not. The people to be in the state they are in, look at the people whom Museveni has bought, quote and unquote. They were very unkempt a few years ago. Today you look at them, it's as if they took a regenerating for youth. They now look very young because Museveni kept them in abject poverty. squeezed them into a corner, and then baited them with a little money, and now they are happy. This is a big problem. The poverty in Uganda is government created so that they can manage to control people. You know, if Ugandans were to read deeper, you go to the library, I think Makerere might have copies of Newsweek. Find the Newsweek magazine of January 1987, celebrating 1 year of NRM in power. There is an interview in there. It was a supplement edition. Forgive me. There is an interview there by Museveni, where Museveni says that he's going to be in power until he is sure, and I'm paraphrasing here, that a class of owners in Uganda is created. Because today, everybody thinks they own Uganda, so nobody really cares. But he needs to create a class of owners. And that's what he's driving at today. Trying to adopt the Anita Mongos, go find some people from the north, a few people from the west, and create a smaller class of people who are actually owning this country and are lording over it. The people, the masses, the general masses need to rise up. You raised the question back about these people being idiots in parliament, and you think these are the people we elect. We did not elect in Uganda. These people were selected. I can even say that with the exception of about 23 MPs, the other MPs who went through, Museveni just said, okay, let those win. And he knew what he was doing. And I'm going to say this, I think it's going to be very controversial. For instance, Museveni saw the force of National Unity Platform in the central region. And he said, you know what? I will let them take that. Because if I let them do that, I will be able to pigeonhole them and call them tribal. And he did it intentionally. Nup had the same support in Teso and in West Nile and in parts of Acholi. Why didn't they win there? These are all tactical. And I can say this. I give this to Museveni. When it comes to political management, whether through crook means, Museveni is brilliant. And until Ugandans realize that we are not dealing with a fool, that we are dealing with a very crafty person who is far more brilliant than Machiavelli, the guy who wrote The Prince, who knows how to manage and manipulate, we are in for a long haul. The same applies to Muhoozi. I have heard Ugandans saying, he's an idiot. Muhoozi is this, Muhoozi is that. Maybe Muhoozi, when it comes to military advancement, there he's genetically modified. Okay? But Muhoozi is not that stupid. For God's sake, Kisubi. Okay? You had to have some points to go to Kisubi. Well, maybe let's say Kisubi, his father influenced some people and he was admitted. But he went to Fort Leavenworth and then went to the UK and trained and passed. So this idea that Muhoozi is stupid is actually loose. They know exactly what they are doing. They are using and they are working day and night to create some kind of a kingdom, a political kingdom in Uganda, and the rule is for eons to wake up. We have an enemy. We cannot minimize the capacity of the enemy we are faced with. You just imagine how come brilliant people, hitherto brilliant people, Andrew Mwenda, Nobati Mao, name them. They are now backs of General Mohozi. What happened?
Just 10 minutes to finish up this show, Mr. Kiwanuka. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. I want us to pick on a question that because you mentioned the poverty that is targeted, that Ugandans have really been targeted. It's Muluganda bagamba kagenderere okubanga people are impoverished. Now there is a new phenomenon. The World Bank has decided to freeze the funding that has been coming to Uganda, and these people have been funding at least a bigger percentage of our budget. That means we are going for something that may not be easy. Is there any comment you have on these gentlemen freezing? And is this really about the Anti-Homosexuality Act in your perspective? Or there is something that is more to the decision that was made by World Bank, if you've heard about it?
I have actually been fortunate to reach out to some people within the World Bank structure. And the anti-homosexuality bill is the straw that broke the camel's back. There are other issues like the abuse of human rights that has been happening all along. And there were excuses that the government could use. But eventually, this came up. Are legislating their abuses, their violation of people's rights. We might be able to disagree on the issue of homosexuality, but we need to understand that these are human beings, they exist, they live among us. We can say that maybe by our culture, and I always laugh when people say, no, this is violating our culture. And the person who is saying this is violating African culture is bleaching her skin to look like a white person. But that's two person I want to go there. So we need to understand that these are people, and if they are sinners, we preach to them. We do not use the articles of our faith to enact laws in the public arena. We need to understand that. But going back to the World Bank issue, the World Bank has come in to say that they're not going to give money to Uganda. But at one level, I'm saying this doesn't actually matter to Ugandans. Because how much of the loans that were given by the World Bank trickled down into visible, identifiable projects that you could talk about in Uganda? None. All this money does, yes, it builds houses for some people. Some people enjoy it for their health, for their personal wealth. They build homes in Kenya, they build houses, hotels somewhere else. So this money has been taken away from the people. So we don't really need to worry about that because it's going to be the same. Because this money never went where it was supposed to go. The problem is going to be that when they don't have that money, the little money that has been going into public service, they are going to go after it because they are very callous. They don't care. They need to get the money wherever they can find it.
Everybody is being, targeted. Even the people of who you may call the least, they are targeting taxes that are going to be going to that kind of, or to that class of people. So, Mr. Kiwanuka, please, in just 2 or 3 minutes, give us your parting shots, sir.
Okay. One, I can't do a parting shot without talking about the Democratic Party as a parting shot. I want to tell members of the Democratic Party, be content. The same way Uganda is under Museveni and is being swung here and there without proper trajectory forward, is the same way the leadership of the Democratic Party is handling our affairs. In the Acholi they say, I hope I can remember this in Acholi. It's like yo alio oloyo laruru. Okay, walking two roads, defeated the hyena. My brother Norbert Mao and some members of the Democratic Party, they better think twice. If they decide to go, let them be gone and leave the party to reorganize itself and move forward. We will not begrudge them. And I would tell the same thing to those in the FDC. Those who want to work with Museveni, they can go and work with him and let other people try to liberate the country. They shouldn't be standing in the way. For Ugandans, this country is ours. We do not have any other country but Uganda. Even those of us who are in exile, our hearts are home. Our bodies are here, but our minds are always in Uganda. Let's give our all. Let's step away from parochial desires that are narrowing what we think of when we in a new Uganda. I can tell you that some of us, we are committed. We will give our all to this country, and we cannot expect the person who has violated agreements with everyone, with the churches, with the Buganda kingdom, on regarding the issue of federalism, which we talk maybe some other time when time permits us, because there were agreements, and think that he's going to take us forward. We need to liberate, recapture, rescue our country from the doldrums where the Museveni family is taking it. Concluding, this is a national concern. I have seen many people talking about the Westerners. Westerners are suffering almost in the same way Northerners, Easterners are suffering. Yes, there could be some crumbs dropping off the table of some political leaders from the West. But we cannot afford to divide ourselves along regional lines because of one bad person called Yoweri Museveni. My brothers in the West, Ankore, please come to the table with the opposition. You showed us in 1980, you rejected this person. Guide us, work with us, and let's save our country. I thank the digital platform. I know it's not easy to do journalism in Uganda. Thank you for braving the hurricane of political harassment to be able to give some of us voice. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Kiwanuka Nsereko Lawrence, who is streaming live from New York. This gentleman is a politician. You can call him an exiled journalist. He's also a lecturer right there. And of course, he's an added member of the Democratic Party. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, everybody who has been watching from the time we started up to the time this program is ending, thank you so much. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.